Can we please stop measuring earned media value, please? Hey guys, welcome back to this week's video. Thank you so much for tuning in as usual. Today we're talking about earned media value. Now, before we jump into it, I want to first say that I've never worked in PR. I've never pitched the media. I don't know the media. I don't know any journalists except one who's a 49er fan, John Schwartz, and we banter back and forth every year, starting in the preseason. I've never written a press release. I've never read a press release, and I don't plan on it. So this is my standpoint, my perspective of earned media value. And I say that because over the years, I've supported PR pros and I've worked alongside PR pros, and their job isn't easy. But measuring earned media value, in my opinion, is a complete cop-out. Not only is it inaccurate and it kind of devalues, in my opinion, PR, it's just easy. It's too easy, right? It's like measuring impressions. So let me first talk and define what measuring earned media value is. Now, let me quickly read a definition here that I wrote earlier today. Earned media value is an estimate of what you would have paid for the same amount of impressions using some form of paid media. Now, I don't know if that even makes sense or if that's a complete sentence, but let me try to justify it this way. All right, so let me give you a quick example of what this means. So let's say you have a product launch and you get 10 million impressions of all your earned media. And you were then to say, okay, well, what is my earned media value? Well, you have to determine first what you would spend in paid social or paid media or paid search in order to get the equivalent, the same 10 million impressions. And that number, let's just say it's $50,000, that is your earned media value. Now, some people say that it's a cost savings. You know, they'll say something like, well, we didn't have to spend $50,000 to get 10 million impressions. Instead, we pitched the media and we got the same amount of impressions or eyeballs as we would have if we were to pay that much money in paid search and or paid social. And that's kind of a flawed way of thinking. And first, let me tell you why. Most folks who report on impressions usually get that number from a UVM, Unique Visitors Monthly. Now, that is a number that is reported by platforms like SimilarWeb. Cision and Muckrack do have integrations with SimilarWeb, and they can tell you what those unique monthly visitors are to each of those platforms, like a Forbes or a Fortune or a Fast Company, things like that. And so usually the report would say, okay, you got a placement in Fortune, and Fortune gets 10 million unique visitors per month. Therefore, your article got 10 million impressions. Now, again, that is a flawed metric because that unique visitors number is representative of the domain. So the domain, meaning every website or every web page rather on Fortune, on Forbes, collectively gets 10 million impressions, not your article. Okay, your article might have gotten 50, 100, 1,000, 2,000, not 10 million. And so that in itself is kind of a flawed metric because, and I'm not sure really how many people even know that, right? Which I don't blame you. I don't blame anybody, but you know, sometimes these platforms make it appear to be that, okay, you know, your total readership is 10 million folks because if you calculate all of the media publications that you got coverage from, well, that is the aggregate collective total. And that's not necessarily the total number of people who read your article. It's the collective readership and or unique visitors monthly. Now, there's one platform that I know of called Memo, and Memo is fairly new. It's been around a couple years, and they have agreements with these publishers like Fortune and Forbes and others. And I'm not exactly sure how it works on the back end, but they will give you the total unique visitors, impressions, referrals at the article level, right? Because it's almost like getting access to Google Analytics from Fortune and Forbes that'll tell you at the article level how many impressions, engagements, shares, things like that your article received. So that's probably the closest to some value or number that we can get to without necessarily using a broad UVM number at the domain level. So let me just say one other thing before we conclude for today. Now, when you compare earned media to that of paid media, you kind of devalue the work that you do from a PR standpoint. Let me tell you why. Paid media, for the most part, is, and has been over the years, declining in trust. We as consumers don't trust advertising. We also put ad blockers up. We have tunnel vision. We don't see the ads as we are scrolling through our feeds or through Forbes and Fortune. We don't necessarily see all those videos unless we're trying to exit out of them. So that there's a trust issue and credibility standpoint. Now, when you think about third-party, journalists and the media who are writing objectively about a product or service or an executive or a company, usually they are more trusted than that of traditional advertising. So why would you compare a number where even if the number was accurate, there's a level of disintegrating trust between paid media and earned media. So it doesn't even make sense from my perspective to even use earned media value, because you're kind of devaluing your own work by comparing it to that of paid media. So that's my 2 cents, and I hope it made sense. Now, I do want to talk about a couple of other ways to measure, which I will link to in the description, as well as like up here, up there somewhere, on going beyond measuring impressions and delivering value and impact through reporting, as well as something that's called multi-channel media segmentation, which again is just a way of thinking about kind of the 360-degree view of measuring the performance of media relations. So I hope this video was helpful to you today. Thank you so much for tuning in. And until I see you next time, have a great afternoon. Bye.